Oscar Prado. Dexter breaks into Freebo's house at night, ready to execute a carefully planned kill. He's certain Freebo has murdered 2 college girls, and everything is set up the way Harry's code demands until it all collapses. Inside, Freebo is already locked in a fight with another man. Freebo bolts out the door, leaving Dexter face to face with a stranger wielding a knife. The two struggle, furniture crashes, and in the chaos, Dexter drives the blade into the man's chest. It's only after the adrenaline fades that he realizes the horrifying mistake. He's killed the wrong man. The victim is Oscar Prado, younger brother of Assistant District Attorney Miguel Prado. By daylight, the crime scene is swarming with cops. Oscar wasn't some faceless street criminal. He was Miami royalty. Everyone assumes Freebo did it since he fled. Only Dexter knows the truth, that Oscar wasn't a murderer, and that this death falls completely outside of Harry's code. It wasn't ritual. It wasn't proven justice. It was messy, impulsive, and unforgivable by the rules that are supposed to guide him. The consequences ripple instantly. Determined to cover his tracks, Dexter tracks down Freebo to finish the job. He kills him with Oscar's own bayonet, trying to balance the scales in his own mind. But before he can even process what he's done, Miguel Prado shows up at Freebo's place, chasing leads of his own. Dexter spins a story about self-defense, and Miguel accepts it with gratitude. In that moment, a new bond is formed, one that will spiral into one of Dexter's most dangerous relationships, and it all started with one reckless kill that broke Harry's code wide open. Nathan. It started in the most ordinary of places, a supermarket. Dexter was shopping with Rita's kids when he noticed a man named Nathan Martin casually striking up a conversation with Aster, Rita's young daughter. To anyone else, it might have looked harmless, but Dexter saw the signs, the lingering attention, the calculated friendliness. He followed his instincts, checked the man's background, and confirmed the truth. Martin was a convicted child molester. By the code, that wasn't enough. Martin was disgusting, but he wasn't a murderer. That should have been the end of it. But then Dexter ran into him again, this time at the beach. Nathan wasn't just hanging around, he was taking photos of children. Among the faces in his camera lens was Aster herself. That was the moment Dexter's control began to slip. Later, at a nearby cafe, he confronted Martin directly, warning him to stay away from his family. Martin denied it all, pretending he was just a man trying to live a normal life. But Dexter couldn't let it go. That night, he broke into Martin's home. On the computer, the proof stared him in the face, photos of Aster from the beach. At that point, the code no longer mattered. This wasn't about justice or ritual. This was personal. In a rare moment of raw impulse, Dexter crept up behind Nathan and strangled him with a garrote. No careful plastic sheets, no trophies, no methodical kill room. Just rage, fear, and instinct. And in one chilling detail, after the act was done, Dexter grabbed a carton of milk from Martin's fridge because Rita had asked him to pick some up. It was the perfect reminder of why he did it. He wasn't following Harry's code, he was protecting his family. Camilla. Dexter visits Camilla in hospice, the records clerk who's known him since he was a kid and who's now dying of cancer. She's in constant pain and asks him for 2 things, help arranging her funeral and the perfect key lime pie before she goes. He keeps bringing pies that miss the mark, and when she finally asks him to end her suffering, he refuses. Harry's code says never kill an innocent person. She makes it plain she can't do it herself. She couldn't even do it for her husband, Gene. And she also lets Dexter know she long ago figured out that his brother Brian was the ice truck killer. The request hangs there, and Dexter sits with it. He returns with another pie, draws the drapes, and quietly injects a slice with sodium thiopental. He feeds her small bites at the bedside. She tells him this one is finally perfect. As the drug takes hold, Dexter leans in and admits he killed Brian. She manages a faint approval before she slips away. It's a clean, deliberate mercy killing, and a clear break from Harry's code. Camilla wasn't a murderer. Dexter did it because she asked, because she trusted him, and because he decided easing her pain mattered more than the rule that had governed his life. Jonathan Farrow. Jonathan Farrow was a well-known photographer in Miami, admired in the art world but hiding something darker. Dexter set his sights on him in Season 3 after uncovering that Farrow's glamorous lifestyle was built on exploitation and murder. Several young models had gone missing, and when Dexter dug into the evidence, it became clear Farrow had used them as muses and then discarded them permanently. At first, everything lined up. Farrow was arrogant, predatory, and the perfect kind of target for the code. Dexter even allowed himself to feel that familiar sense of certainty, the ritual of planning the kill, preparing the table, lining up the knives. But in his rush, Dexter skipped one crucial step, being absolutely sure. He stalked Farrow, captured him, and carried out the kill, confident he was serving justice. But almost immediately, the truth unraveled. At Miami Metro, new forensic evidence pointed not to Farrow, but to his assistant. The young man had been the one killing models, jealous and resentful, while Farrow was guilty only of being exploitative and unlikable. Dexter realized too late that he had broken Harry's most fundamental rule, never kill an innocent. This was more than a mistake, it was a collapse of the code. Dexter had killed because he wanted to, not because the evidence was airtight, and even as the weight of what he'd done settled in, he felt something more disturbing. The dark passenger didn't care about innocence, only Dexter did. Alberto. Dexter's path to Alberto begins in one of the darkest turns of Season 6. After finally cornering Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer, Dexter's own M99 tranquilizer was used against him by Travis Marshall. After Travis sedated Dexter with his own dart and sets him adrift on a broken boat in the middle of the ocean, left to burn alive, Dexter struggled, finally letting the ropes loose. He escaped. Instead of drowning, Dexter is spotted and hauled aboard a small fishing vessel, overloaded with Cuban migrants trying to reach Miami. At first, it seems like a stroke of luck, but the relief doesn't last long. The captain of the boat, Alberto, isn't a savior, he's a predator. Armed with a gun, he demands that the frightened passengers hand over their money and valuables. Dexter watches quietly, but when Alberto turns the weapon on a pregnant woman, pressing it to her stomach to force her husband to give up more cash, the moment changes. This isn't about greed anymore, it's about cruelty, and Dexter can't just stand by. Harry's code is clear, only kill those who deserve it, only after proof, and only with preparation, but Dexter has none of that here. No research, no ritual, no certainty, just a split-second decision. Moving fast, he grabs a boat hook, drives it into Alberto's body, and pushes him overboard. The other migrants stare in shock, but the threat is gone. Dexter, now in control, takes the wheel and steers them toward Miami, close enough for them to swim to safety before continuing his own desperate mission to stop Travis. Stan Liddy. Stan Liddy is a disgraced Miami Metro narcotics cop fired for corruption, angry, broke, and hired off books by Detective Joey Quinn to dig up dirt on Dexter. He doesn't just tail Dexter, he wires the docks in Dexter's boat slip, builds a surveillance van, and records Dexter and Lumen working at night, enough to make any internal affairs detective sit up. When Quinn gets cold feet and tells him to back off, Liddy goes rogue. He tases Dexter in a parking area by the marina, zip ties him, and locks him inside the van, planning to force a taped confession, or deliver Dexter to the department as his ticket back. He even phones Quinn to come down, figuring the handoff will be clean. Inside the van, Liddy brandishes a knife and moves in close. Dexter works his restraints, turns into the attack, and drives the blade back into Liddy. One hard thrust, fast and clinical. Outside, Quinn arrives and knocks, but Dexter stays silent until Quinn leaves, then wipes down the scene and pulls Liddy's cameras and audio, anything that could expose him or Lumen. It's not a ritual kill or a code kill, it's a containment kill. The aftermath is messy for everyone but Dexter. Liddy's body is found in the van, and Laguerta zeroes in on Quinn. Repeated calls from Liddy, Quinn's presence at the docks, and a drop of Liddy's blood on Quinn's shoe. Dexter runs the lab work himself and tweaks the results so it won't tie Quinn to the murder, quietly removing the only cop who was still openly suspicious of him, Briggs. Debra Morgan has quit Miami Metro and sunk herself into an undercover job with a private investigator, Jacob Elway. The target she's cozying up to is Andrew Briggs, small-time Miami criminal tied to a stash of stolen jewelry. She isn't dating him for love. She's after a payday and a distraction from the guilt of killing her boss, Maria Laguerta. Dexter tracks her to Fort Lauderdale using her card activity and shows up at the shabby pink motel with his toddler Harrison in the car because his sitter isn't available, only to find Deb living like a fugitive and refusing to come home. Dexter has done his homework. The buyer, sniffing around Briggs, isn't a buyer at all, but a mob hitman called El Sapo. He warns Deb that Briggs is marked, but she tells him to leave her alone and that she shot the wrong person. The confrontation turns physical fast. Briggs goes for a knife. Dexter reacts first and drives it into his chest. No plastic, no ritual, no research, and no proof of murder. It's a pure impulse kill to protect Deb, and it detonates the code of Harry in one stab. Deb is horrified. She orders Dexter out and calls it in, but not before pocketing a key from Briggs, a clue to where he keeps the stolen jewels. That key leads her to Buster's self-storage, where she actually finds the jewelry, until El Sapo ambushes her, beats her bloody, steals both the jewels and her gun, and locks her inside the unit. Hours later, Miami Metro finds El Sapo shot dead in his car. Dexter quietly realizes Deb pulled the trigger and even swaps out evidence to keep her out of prison. It all traces back to that motel. Dexter killed a thief, not a killer, with his son outside in the car, and the ricochet, El Sapo, the evidence tampering, Deb's spiral, proves how badly he broke the code that night. Debra. Dexter is ready to leave Miami for good. He has tickets to Argentina, a hurricane is closing in, and he's decided not to kill Oliver Saxon, the brain surgeon. Instead, he wants to hand Saxon over to the police, thinking it's the right choice and a way to give Debra her career back, but this decision destroys everything. Debra goes to arrest Saxon at an abandoned hospital. At the same time, U.S. Marshal Max Clayton arrives, not realizing Saxon is a killer. The marshal frees him, and Saxon immediately stabs Clayton and shoots Debra in the stomach. She's rushed to the hospital where doctors operate. At first, things look hopeful. Debra is awake, talking, and even tells Quinn she loves him. But then, complications set in. A blood clot causes a stroke, leaving her in a coma with no chance of recovery. Dexter realizes that this happened because he spared Saxon. If he had followed the code and killed him earlier, Debra would still be alive. He visits Saxon in custody, tricks him during what looks like a routine test, and kills him with a pin. Batista and Quinn call it self-defense, but Dexter knows it was revenge. Then comes the hardest moment of his life. Dexter goes back to Deb's hospital room, turns off her life support, and holds her hand as the machines fall silent. He carries her body out during the hurricane evacuation, takes her on his boat, and lowers her into the ocean, burying his sister at sea the same way he's disposed of his victims. For Dexter, it's the clearest and most tragic break of Harry's code. Deb wasn't a criminal, she wasn't a target, she was family, and he killed her out of love and guilt.
I destroy everyone I love. And I can't let that happen to Hannah, to Harrison. I have to protect them from me.